Hello and welcome to Dil Ki Recipes. And I am so excited to be talking to someone very special who is an innovator and an entrepreneur, as well as someone who is an advocate for mental health for men. BJ Williams, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for making time. I met with you at a mental health conference and we've crossed paths a couple of times. I want to introduce you to our listeners as somebody who is an educator, an advocate, an athlete. You've been playing professional football and track.
Quick correction, collegiate football and track, not professional. I don't want
Well,
nobody
given I'm not a
going.
sports professional, to me, that's
Mm,
professional enough. And you've also experienced loss of multiple layers and levels. And not many men step into that space where they notice that there is an importance of emotional, psychological well being, especially given the male gender, unlike other privileges doesn't share privilege of feeling and emoting. So you created a beautiful space called Can I Be Vulnerable? And
mhm.
it is a very, very unique space for mental health and positive emotional support for men. Welcome to Dil Ki Recipes on your favorite social media platform. Hi, I'm Dr. Sheeza Mohsin, executive coach, relationship expert, and your coach in this virtual space to support you and your Desi family in America. If you identify as being a person of color, a minority, and having some form of bicultural identity, a major goal of putting this information out is to help you realize you're not alone in this journey. If you identify as a Desi with cultural roots in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and surrounding areas, trying to meet your life and relationship needs and desires while embracing some beautiful elements of your cultural heritage, Dil Ki Recipes is for you. If you don't identify as a Desi, but have a warm, loving, human being kind of disposition and you want to better yourself, I think you'll find some good stuff in here as well. So let's go on with the show.
From the beginning, what made me get into Can I Be Vulnerable was the question. Yes, I'm sorry. It was me going to therapy, and when I was heavy on social media, I just kept just talking about it. Hey, I got to go to therapy today. Just really just talking about therapy. It was very casual in my conversations on social. Just randomly people start replying like, "Oh, what's up with therapy? How's it going?" And Therapy Thursdays was a hashtag, Therapy Thursdays, and I'm like, yeah, it really that's how it started. I promise you, it was Therapy Thursdays because I went to therapy on Thursdays. It was very casual how I was speaking about it, very open. I didn't talk about the issues, obviously, and I noticed like the guys. Specifically, guys started reaching out to me in my DMs and just personal messages like, hey, what's going on? I need a therapist. But Can I Be Vulnerable itself happened 4 years, 5 years later. And I happened to be on vacation. The term Can I Be Vulnerable came to me under a palm tree, actually. It's funny. So I said I wanted to get into details why I got into therapy. And it kind of blew up from then. I put it out, I think, July of 2018. As soon as I put it out, it went viral in my little social media corner. I don't know what I expected, to be honest with you. I don't know if I expected it to blow up. I didn't know. I just was putting it out there. Forget it. Here's me. What we doing? And the response was overwhelming. So my producer, really, really good friend of mine, longtime friend, Brandon Thomas, edited. And he said, well, why don't we make this a thing? And I didn't want to because I wanted to do this for me, put it out to the world, show yourself. Here I am naked. See me. But he was like, no, we should do something. And what ended up happening was I couldn't tell you how many messages I got from men saying, let me tell my story. And I was like, well, I don't know what's stopping you. You have a cell phone. You don't need me for that. But for some odd reason, they didn't want to. They wanted me to tell it. So here we are. So I think the next year and a half, 2 years, we went on a mission. I was shooting maybe 2 or 3 guys a week at one point. And we ended up about 60 men. I think we showed like 54, 55. There's like 6 episodes that I have not shown for various reasons, not all. When that blew up, the more guys we put out, the more responses we got. It kind of thrust me into the mental health space. And I was already an educator. So just putting those two worlds together, education and mental health. How can we bring that to the masses? Because I know there's not enough mental health professionals. And because of that, I obviously met professionals like yourself, and I teamed up with Dr. Jesse and Dr. Shannon, amongst others, Dr. Tiffany. I have a few ladies men that helped me develop my curriculum on top of theirs. And we ended up working with the NFL. We ended up working up with, I cannot think of the other entity right now, but they basically are nonprofit with other professional sports. And we were just hosting weekly meetings for the athletes themselves. It was basically locker room talk with mental health professionals. It's just the ideas and the innovation of things kept coming to me. So from that, after the curriculum and the athlete stuff, I bought a bus. And this is around COVID. So world was shut down. Obviously, people's mental health was spiraling. There's not other mental health professionals. Even though everybody went to online and telehealth, still not enough to serve the people. All the mental health professionals I knew were overwhelmed themselves. How can a community step up? And so I bought a bus and started taking therapy to the people. The bus took a lot out of me. It was very hard, a lot of money. I did have a lot of help, but because the way we did it hadn't necessarily been done, I was by myself driving at night with headlights on. You can see it but so far, but you don't know what's happening because there's not been a road carved for that. It was a lot. There have been other iterations of mobile therapy, you know what I mean? Mobile therapy. So I can't say I'm the first, but the way in which we wanted to do it, I couldn't find many examples of that. So it took a lot out of me. So I took maybe like a year and a half, 2 years off of really going out and doing the work. I would do things here and there, but here I am.
Absolutely. And so I have two comments. One, I think that the whole storytelling thing is not something everyone can do and get men comfortable to talk about. So I have like a couple of questions that are coming up. The first one is for those people who are now getting exposed to you through this, the patterns that you saw, what is difficult for men? Because as we talk about, especially like Black and brown men, this is not something that is even culturally encouraged. We have all of these stereotypes that are given to boys and young men about how being a man means you don't cry, you don't emote, you don't show vulnerability. The other one, the reason it piques my interest is that I have a unique practice in that almost a little over 50% of my practice is men, which is very rare because they're usually women in my
Yeah.
colleagues' practices.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about, what patterns you saw in terms of the difficulty, and especially for people who are strong, resilient men in that emotional space. What were you noticing?
I always say when that question gets asked about the stereotypes and men can't cry is historically, specifically in Black communities, we didn't have the time to be into our emotions and be emotional and cry because that meant death, right? Because you go through slavery, you go through Jim Crow. We didn't have there was no time to, hey, this is how I feel when you have to protect self and family, right? And you're dealing with all those things. So you combine all that. So to call it a stereotype, yeah, but it was also a necessity. We were operating out of a place of when I say survival, you know what I mean? Like we talk about survival now, but I wasn't alive during slave times. I was born after Jim Crow, although there's still the effects of it that I feel that then was a million times worse than the things that we read about. I don't call it a stereotype, it was a necessity. And then you have your kids and your kids' kids and all that. You pass some of those lessons down. Things are still bad because it's American racism, but we aren't specifically slaves. Well, if you count prisoners, but most of us aren't slaves like that anymore. We don't live like that. Jim Crow isn't as prevalent. It's insidious because it's underneath, but it's not as prevalent as it once was. So now we can ease up a bit and really get in tune with our emotions now. But it was out of necessity because it meant death, literally. If you stopped and said, "Hey, I need to talk to a therapist," yeah, you no time for that. I think it was a survival tactic. And again, you only teach what you can know. You pass down what you know. Now, like I said, we're not living in those times. There's a little bit more room for us to say, "Hey, I'm not all right." And the things that my ancestors have lived through, generations past have lived through, because generational trauma, right? I can now fix. We have the time now. When people ask that, I don't like to shift blame on the fact that, yeah, men do say that, but that's just what they know. And so now I'm in the generation now where, hey, listen, you have the time now. And it's actually really, really healthy for you. Because if you call yourself a man, to me, this is my opinion, everybody's definition of manhood is different and it should be respected as such, as long as it's healthy for everybody around them. You can't be strong for your family when you can't be strong for yourself. It's just impossible. You can get things done. I'm not saying you can't, but if I'm not all the way right, how can I be right for the family? And that's the generation I'm a part of now. Coming to the place of these are the things that my family went through, I went through, but I can do something about that now. And so the difficulties they face and why that is because it's learned. In the work that I've done with brown communities as well, Hispanic and Muslim communities, it's the same, very similar. Everybody's culture isn't much different, to be honest with you. There are
So
several
true.
details that are different. Overall, it's not much difference in the things we do country to country, city to city, town to town. There's minute details, obviously, that are different, but in the Hispanic community, their older generations told their younger generations that, I punch you in the chest, you better not cry type thing. So it's not much different, but now, like I said, it was out of necessities, especially as these conversations have gotten way more prevalent, because 10 years ago, this wasn't a thing. We were among the first to put these videos out. And this is literally 2018. It's not that long ago. We were at the forefront of that because it's a lot of us, not just me, it was some other people that were doing it well. But now everybody brings up mental health in every capacity, which is a great thing. So I have this thing now, we have this room and the space to recognize that we are not all right and to recognize that I'm human and I've been wired with emotions. I need to learn how to recognize and not be controlled by them.
Something that stood out as you were talking, that there is an absolutely, there's so much cultural nuances that are overlapping, right? And different. Of course, I cannot even begin to imagine that I understand what that time did and what was experienced by the Black community with going through all of those atrocities. So I cannot even pretend that I could remotely understand that. What I can share is that I noticed those cultural nuances and what you said, that you couldn't pass on what you didn't know. And I see that in pieces, whether it is the Hispanic community or the South Asian, the Indian Pakistani community, where immigrants typically their trajectory is to come and provide, and that's like food and shelter. So nobody has the time to be like, let me talk about your feelings. That's like, okay, great, like you have time for that, lovely.
All
And
right. If you
so
got time for that, you have time to get this work done because this is why we came.
exactly. And we need food on the table, and you better get a job if you have time for that kind of stuff. So, what does go amiss? And then it's generational, definitely. I noticed that there is a disconnect in that father and son thing as well. Because the sons that are maybe millennials or late Gen Xers have boomers and the older Gen X
Yeah,
parents who,
yeah.
so I definitely notice, and I was wondering if you see some of that, where the generational difference in how people talk about that stuff and show affection and emotion to boys.
You know, it's funny. My dad never talked therapy, but he never shied away from me crying. He never shamed me for it. He never gave me those, no, you man up and you acting like he's never said that to me. But he also was never like, you need to get some help, or he still had that boomer mentality of move forward, you'll be, his thing was, you'll be all right. He was right, but like, looking back, it's like, no, I actually really needed to speak to somebody, especially dealing with some of the things I had dealt with. But he never did tell me that it's you. He always told me it was okay to cry. It's good for you. So I do appreciate him for that. He was for a person from his generation. I feel like that's very open-minded because his dad is an immigrant. You know, he immigrated. He was adopted from Barbados to come to the States, and Caribbean parents are just as Hispanic, Latin, Indian, Pakistani. You know what I mean? Like they could be.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So very hardcore, but he was very open-minded in that way, very supportive in that way. If I did have to cry, he was there, but he just tell me you be all right. So there was no like further discussion of my emotions. I don't think he had the tool sets himself. Now, as an adult, and he knows the work that I do, we do speak about it, but I also know he's uncomfortable really getting to it. I ask questions now, and I don't think he's really sat with it to give me an articulate answer where we're really diving deep into the conversation. He's open to it. I'm not saying he's not. He doesn't shut down, but I know he hasn't done the work himself and sat and thought about the things that he has gone through in the way that I have. And I'm not a therapist, I'm a son, so I'm not going to therapize the guy. You know, I could just recommend it to him. So that's my experience with an older generation itself. And because I'm the therapy guy in the family, nobody, the older generation in my family, the men especially, like I specifically had two cousins that are Gen X, and they both gang bang, blood egg, like in the same household. One is a blood, one is a crib. I mean, they're older now, but like even they have when we have these conversations now as adults, like their interest in it is different. And I think it's just me. I don't know how they operate outside of me, but because they know I do mental health, the conversation is this is what I do now. When they find out you do mental health or you're a therapist, they can't wait to talk to you. People do, men want to talk. I know they want to talk. But who are they talking to? There's like the trust, and I look like them. I'm black. So and this is for white men as well. They feel like I'm safe to them because I'm black. The weirdest thing, right? You know, racism keeps them away. And then they find out you do mental health, and it's like, oh, this is a cool little black dude. Okay, I get so they can't wait to speak. It's been an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed when people find out I do mental health.
It's so beautiful, and I can completely resonate with that, because initially in my career I've worked with a lot of non-Muslim clergy, and I used to wonder, is it because I am good, or is it because I'm so different that their secret is safe with me? Because there is a privacy thing, which is what I wanted to talk about and see what you think, because I feel in brown and black communities there are two, three things happening. One, we have historically relied a lot on faith to be a therapist, a kind of therapist. And there is a little bit of that guilt and shame when we don't say that that is the ultimate and only therapist. So I'm curious about your views on that. And the other is the whole idea of privacy. And we don't share our business with other people. And so one of the things that I do a lot of big family therapy in the Brown community where it's like in-laws and parents and there's some parents that I don't know if they're hating me that minute because they're like, who is she that, she shows up at like this person who knows something about, I'm the elder of the family. They should be coming to me. Like, so there's like this little turf thing, and I have to tread so carefully and respectfully. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that privacy business, the faith, and the
Yeah,
leaders of the family will guide you. Why would
yeah,
this wacko person say something?
yeah. With faith, we've had this conversation a few times with two of my best friends are Muslim, my college teammates, devout Muslim. They took in their trip to Mecca, and we've had these conversations a lot. And they go to therapy. And one of the things he said was, God provides. Allah provides, and they provided this doctor to come help me with my disease. My mind is at disease, and that's how they explain it to me. And a lot of times people do use faith to dismiss a lot of problems. You see it's prevalent, Catholic Church with molestations and femicides and all those things. That's weaponizing religion. At the same time, on the other side of that, religion provides, faith provides. And spiritually, I'm getting right? If I'm devout and I'm devout in my practices, I'm getting my spiritual right, but I still need to get my mental right. You know what I mean? And God provided somebody to help me with that. And so when people do say, well, I'll just pray, you could be dismissing that. He could say, hey, I gave you somebody to help you through the thing that you asked me to help you through. Here it is, and you dismissed it. I understand how powerful faith is, and it is. And that's just get your spirit right for sure. But you just like you can't pray for a physical, for a top body. You have to put the work in. You know what I mean? Hey, God, I want six packs. I bet you do.
We all do.
Pray for the energy and the go out to go to the gym and stuff. He'll give you that, but you have to put the work in. It's the same thing. For my mental, you have to put the work in. You can pray to learn math, fine, but you still need somebody to teach you how to do the thing. And so, hoping people understand that aspect of it, I think, really does help. Or it's been hurt, especially in older generations, and also for elders as well. You ever notice when like an elder dies and all the secrets come out and families stop talking to each
Oh
other?
my goodness, yes.
So as much as elders are needed to keep the family together, they also don't do a good job because when they leave, the family falls apart. And that's a direct reflection on the leadership of the family. A family shouldn't fall apart when the matriarch or the patriarch passes away. That's not what happens with a good leader. So anybody watching is taking offense to that, then you need to check out your leadership. Is it the family falls apart when you die, you didn't do a good job? There were secrets that you kept and didn't handle, or something happened along the way that you didn't get the right people to help keep the family together for whatever those reasons are. And a lot of times it's secrets. You keep them from each other. We don't talk about that. And
This
nobody
is
talks about it
so
because you, as the elder, they respect and they will never disrespect you. But once you're out of there, I don't have to respect you because you're no longer here. I don't have to talk to these people no more. I don't have to deal with that no more.
mm.
And that's a reflection on the leadership.
This is so profound and it's very relatable to the Brown community with the secrets because when I do family therapy, I'm always telling families that money is not the only thing you give to your family as inheritance. You're giving them beliefs, values, coping mechanisms, conflict repair styles. So if you notice, in the Brown culture, there's something called the good family. And essentially, it's not a rich family, it's a family that is, and now I say this because I couldn't understand that before as well. It's basically an emotionally regulated family,
Mm-hmm.
a family that knows how to resolve conflict with respect, a family who knows how to manage boundaries, a family who does not go cuckoo at the first sight of stress or something. So that's such a big part of the inheritance because that's like our starter kit that we have to develop from. So if we're behind in that area, we're just catching up.
People complain about their families arguing all the time. I always say that, yeah, but you guys are addressing conflicts. You need better ways to address it, but nobody's holding in the secret. I'd rather you argue all the time about things when y'all get together because at least you're expressing yourselves and you know the issue. Just work on how you argue, how you bring up those conflicts, as opposed to the other family where everything seems to be great, but you're harboring a bunch of secrets. And it's eating the family alive because nobody's addressing anything, pretending everything's all good. You're eating your family from the inside. Because once whoever's holding these secrets together and the family together is gone, all
Oh
hell
my
breaks
goodness.
loose. You know what I
It's
mean?
like House of cards, it's like the termites, right? They've been
Yes.
eating those family secrets are
Yeah.
very powerful, and I'm glad you're bringing them up. I also notice how men and women perpetuate this toxic view of what a man needs to be like. And it's not just men, it's women as well. So I feel like there's a big, big opportunity for awareness in what values we need to raise our sons with, because it's a generational thing. What are some messages that we have to be very clear about as we are raising boys and young men to become the future leaders and men of households?
That they're human, so let them be human. Humans are flawed, so let them be flawed. I think that at its basic, that's really what it is. And this is for men as well. You are human, you're complex, you're flawed. That's great. Be all of those things and just allowing yourself to be that. And then for everybody else around this individual, let them be human. Same thing with women. Let the women be human. That's exactly what they are. We're complex human beings. And again, everybody's gone through something, some more than others, but everybody's gone through something. And I can't tell you what I've gone through is worse than what somebody else has gone through, and vice versa. But allow me to have those experiences. You know what I mean? Don't shame me for them. Don't shame them for them. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be on this call right now. But also, I think life would be pretty boring if we were.
I was going to say that would be so boring.
Kind
We
of
would be
boring.
robots.
And I also understand that everybody's learning how we are evolving as men. In the same message of what can men do for themselves, it's like everybody's learning that hey, we are now getting in tune with our emotions. Slow. Not everybody's doing it at the same time. But we're also recognizing, like, hey, listen, you have issues and you need to get those solved, whether they do it or not. So even the fact that we recognize that people have mental health issues, I think is a huge step. The next generation is going to be even more in tune with their emotions, which is great. It's new. We're all learning that mental health is now coming to the forefront.
Absolutely. And I love the word that you use, the newness. I notice this as, I work with a lot of successful individuals, but I do a lot of couples work in my practice. Some are calling it the existential crisis for men in terms of historically, men were valued for bringing an income, the provider. And now there are more women graduating college than men. There are multiple women that make more money than men. And so their needs and requirements are changing. So a lot of the women are not interested in a man's income. They're interested in his emotional, relational intelligence. And that is really difficult because men have not had that guidance, coaching, mentorship to be as emotionally intelligent. So there's a struggle in that space. And I was wondering what you have noticed. I'm very curious.
It's funny you say that because it's new. That's a new thing too. It's a new cultural contract where women don't need men to provide for them. They are having a problem knowing that they have to be liked, and men are unlikable. We're not likable people. Before, women tolerated it because you needed us. And now we have to evolve to be liked. Before, I didn't have to be liked. I had a good job, got some money, a house, and I'm security. But now you don't need that from me no more. Now I have to be liked. Now I have to be like, I have to have a personality because you can up and leave me and take half my if it's like that. You know what I mean? And that, I think that is the difficulty men are facing is that I don't know if they're defining it as that, like, damn, I really got to be liked. I have to be a good person. Yeah, you do, buddy. You got to be a good person now. For some men, it's weird to me because like, why would you not want to be a good person? Like, why are you a bad person? How come you're not likable? You know what I mean? But I think that's what it is now. You have to do more. We have to be more. And I'm not saying women don't, but this is specifically to the question. We have to be liked, and it's difficult for them because they never had to. Why do I got to be liked? It was easy when I just had to have a good job.
It's so black and white. And that's why
Right.
developing that skill from an earlier age. And I'm wondering if I were to ask you now to raise young men who are emotionally intelligent. Before it was very cookie cutter. You get into sports and you learn teamwork. So that will be good enough for you. You'll know how to be good friends. But conversations, women are much more likely. And it's very interesting because the other thing that we're noticing in terms of reality is unsuccessful relationships, right? Divorce rates are at a peak high. And part of it is this dynamic. I call it misunderstood expectations, right? In terms of what is needed and wanted. But what are some opportunities? Because before it was like, okay, well, just play sports, be good in school, go to college, get a job, have some money. What are opportunities now that you notice would be great opportunities for men to talk about emotions, including spaces like can I be vulnerable? Because in the Black community, the barber shop culture, and in the South Asian community, everybody's like talking cricket. Men don't feel comfortable talking about feelings, and women still have an out. They're comfortable talking about these things.
Actually, men have always done it. They just didn't think of it as therapy or mental health help. So the
Mm.
barbershop talk was our therapy. We just didn't define it as therapy. And now that we are, there's a negative connotation to it or kind of shy away from it. Barbershop talk, cricket, where sports in the locker room. There's always been times where we have a serious conversation about what's going on in life. We just never defined it as therapy or mental health talk. But that's exactly what it is. Words become such prevalent now, is that now implementing what we learned from the mental health community and the professionals and then being able to recognize and integrate it into it more formally, as opposed to we're just in a barbershop, we're just having a locker room talk, we're just happen to be talking about this, the serious conversation. But it's always been a thing. You can take the Hispanic community where they're in the fields talking about things. That's a form of therapy. It just wasn't determined. I'm stereotyping, I'm sorry. But anything, when black people were in the fields, it's the same thing. It's therapy. It just wasn't defined as such. And now that it is, it's like, well, I don't know. It just makes people a little nervous when you put an actual definition to it. And they should continue to do so because we're comfortable. I'm comfortable in the locker room with my guys. We've all gone through the same struggle at some point. I've seen you throw up after running in 100-degree weather for 2 hours. Like, yeah, I'm watching you cry because it hurts. I've watched you fail. We have this camaraderie, and I've watched you fail in a game or in said sport, or if it's an extracurricular like art or music. I've watched you fail. I've watched you try, but I've also watched you master the things that you were failing at first, and you've gotten praise from us about it. So it all works. It's just now that we've put a word to what that is. Because I've seen guys succeed, and then everybody cheers, you get high fives. That's me watching you fail to cheering your success just now. That's a form of therapy. We just didn't define it as such. So I think helping them recognize that that's what that's always been can help.
This whole concept of strong equals vulnerable. Being a strong man means you are comfortable with the uncomfortable, with emotions, with falling apart, with failed anything from a failed career to relationships to ideas. It's my bias that the West really glorifies perfectionism and success. Very soon, whether it is our careers, I notice it's always, well, I'm going to be this and I'm going to do this and that, and this is what happens. Like you said, college football and not NFL. Like I notice there's so much here that we don't talk enough about plan Bs, our amazing plans too, and talking so openly about failures because that's the normal in life. And so when I notice young adults talk comfortably about things they didn't do well, to me, I'm like, that's so healthy. That's so amazing. The older we are, we're not comfortable with talking about that stuff. I tried this, it didn't work. What do you think is happening now as you notice men come out of this new evolved state where they are learning how to be likable, where they're learning that failing, being unsuccessful at whatever it is that they're trying, whether it's work, whether it's a relationship, whether it's anything, it's okay.
It's funny because some of the most successful people, you listen to them talk, they talk about how much they failed. And I don't know why that message doesn't trickle down for everybody else in the pursuit of wherever they're trying to get to. Oprah, Jordan, Barack, all they do is talk about the failures that led them to the successes. And the people that get that message. But for the majority of people, we will never reach that kind of success. But you don't have to reach that kind of success to take the message. And 100% of humans fail more than they succeed. 100%. And we fail way more than we succeed. I don't understand why we are shying away from that conversation. I don't get it. I failed so many. I'm probably gonna fail again today. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around why we don't talk about failures because we all have that in common. If I'm a failure and you're a failure, why don't we be failures together? And for me, it's community. And to the other point you mentioned earlier, why am I going through this by myself if you've gone through something similar? If we can be comrades and build community and build friendships off the things that we like, how come we can't do that off the things that we've failed at or things that have hurt us? Because I know you've gone through something. Why are you? I always say this when I do have these conversations or I'm in these talks. Like, if what you say about being a man is conquering these things and taking over these things and battling these things, and how come you can't do that for self? You can't conquer your emotions. If you're controlled by your emotions, if your emotions make you have you do bad decisions, then you're kind of halfway doing this manhood thing. Before you tackle outside, you need to tackle self. So why are you resisting that? You know what I mean? If you're telling me that a man conquers all, can't conquer self, I don't know if you're fulfilling the manhood protocol thing. I have never had any problems telling my flaws to people. Even in dating, when I would meet a woman back in the day, I'm like, yo, this is me, and this is who I've been. I'm working on it. But if this is what you're trying to do, I'm gonna just let you know the things that I have done in my past. Either you want to work with me or not, and it's fine if you don't. I get it. It was a lot, but you are also not without your baggage. So, if I know this, if I know you've gone through something, I know you're flawed. I know you're a failure. What are we hiding from? There's nothing to hide about. Now, if you're embarrassed about something that you've done, then maybe you should work on being a better person. Mistakes are one thing. If you're embarrassed about something you've done, there's something else that you gotta work through. You should be a better person.
I love that. And one last thing, which I think will be very valuable for women to hear. Give me your top 3 or 5 or 2, whatever, tips to women and what they can do to create emotional safety in their relationships for the men in their lives.
Stay out of the man's way. And I
What does
mean
it
stay out of his
mean?
way. Like what I've noticed with women is they don't want to do the work for the man. And they can't. Like women used to call me all the time. Well, I want to get him into therapy. Yeah, but does he want to get into therapy? Like, can you give me a therapist that I can give to him? You're doing the work for him now. Stop. Sometimes you got to let a person hit that low. And when he is on the journey, be there to support. Because if he's not going to put the work in himself, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't help him. Also, on the other side of that, protect yourself. When I say stay out of his way, I'm talking about on his journey to getting these things. You can encourage, bringing up, hey, I think you should. That's a good idea. It'd be really healthy if you spoke to someone. But outside of that, if he's not going to do this, take the steps, then it's not a whole lot you can do. Let him on his journey, support him on his journey, walk side by side. But this is his journey. And I know it's difficult for women to do that. I always bring it like a baby example. When the baby walks and he falls, you want to jump up and get him. No, let the baby get up. He'll be fine. But they're going to have to fall and bust their ass a couple of times before they get that balance. And all of a sudden they're walking. Now they won't sit down. Stay out of that man's way. Let him fall. But when he gets up, you sit. Good job. And if he never takes that journey, then you have a decision to make because you also deserve your own peace and happiness. If that person is not on their own personal journey to get their own personal peace and happiness and all those things, I'm not telling you to leave, but I am telling you to protect yourself.
I love it. I think so many women are going to find that so valuable. And on that note, a message you would want to give for the men who are listening, feeling alone, misunderstood, angry.
You're doing it to yourself. Stop beating yourself up, man. And if you say like, I do a lot of reading, a lot of listening to things online, so I hear the complaints, and I'm like, well, did you try not doing that? There's nothing profound to say, to be honest with you. It's either you're going to go do the work to get better or you're not. And if you say you're the man or the man that you think you are, then you would just do that. There's nothing profound to say. I don't have a haiku or anything for you. That's where I am now. It's either you're going to do it or you're not. If you're not, fine. I'm not telling you what to do, but then shut up about it. Stay isolated. But if you really do want the help, ask. There's plenty of people willing to help you, man. And then one day as you're putting in the work, out of the blue. It's just it's just such a relief that happens. It's the most you won't see it coming. It'll just be one day.
Magic.
I'm not angry anymore because you've been doing the work.
I love it. BJ Williams, can I be vulnerable? Thank you so much for your time. I think hearing it from the horse's mouth, especially this kind of messaging for men, you have no idea how healing it is. It's so interesting that the South Asian community draws a lot of affinity with the Black community because growing up when brown kids do not know where to belong, they've always connected.
Black people.
That's their people. And I hear this from generations. I see that in my children. It's like, it's pretty amazing. And so hearing it's a cohort family extension that's ahead, and we have a lot to learn from this community. So
It's funny. It's a conversation for another time. But if America had a brochure of what they put out, it's always minorities, Black people. But at the same time, we're also the ones that get blamed for all the problems. Minority, the younger generations, yeah, we're welcoming. Everything that's cool, music, Black people. Every American music genre is Black people.
sports, music,
It's art, fashion,
art.
and then and then you bring the other communities in from the Asian communities, from Latin communities. Like, I don't know how much white people have done in terms of like culture, but conversation for another time. My challenge to the men is if you are the man you say you are, or whoever the man is that you want to be, do the work. And if you're not going to do the work, shut your ass up about the things that are going wrong in life. Because everybody has something wrong in life. You're not special.
I love it. Thank you so much, BJ. I know that I'm going to be having you over on my podcast in a few
Really good.
months again to talk
Yeah.
about something similar. It has to
Always.
happen. Yeah,
Of
thank
course.
you. Please remember to keep listening and watching as part of your weekly self-care and learning ritual. You know there are lots of commonalities in our lives, relationships, in our joys and struggles. And my hope is that this material will help you expand your perspective, give you some clarity on how to think about things, and ultimately make you feel better and sorted about your life and relationships. Hope you have a fulfilling and wholesome day.